You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacqueline connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacqueline.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Hi, welcome everyone. You're watching USA Global TV, or maybe you're listening to Business Talk Radio, and this is Fashion, Fitness, Travel, and Leisure. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, and we are thrilled to have you here today. We have an incredible guest. We are welcoming her back once again. It is the wonderful Sandy Adams. She has been traveling. It's been on an amazing trip. We've got beautiful photographs. But before we bring her out, let's bring out the lovely and divine Lady Di, Diane Floyd Bame. Welcome, traveler.
Hello, how are you this Friday?
I'm fantastic, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm signing books, so can't complain.
I know, I saw you there right in front of, what was it, champagne?
Oh, it looks that way, yes, but it's amazing. I was like, okay, it is children's books, you know.
Well, you looked very happy, and just tell us what that experience is like, actually signing books in person.
It's humbling, and it's extra special because I'm in a town called LaPorte, Texas, where I graduated from LaPorte. And so to be back in the town and see how much it's grown, and to be with the people, I'm just very proud, and they seem to be proud to have a graduate there. So it's inspiring.
That's exciting, Diane. And please tell us about your incredible #1 best-selling new release on Amazon called Rise.
Thank you. That is mind-blowing to be on the hot list of Amazon, right? Who knew, right? I'm so excited after 6 years of putting that book together. It's overwhelming and amazing experience, and I really thank everybody supporting me, and hope people will continue enjoying reading the story, and that it inspires them to be who they're meant to be and to follow their dreams.
Diane, thank you so much. Please tell us a little bit more about your new book, Rise, A Girl's Struggle for More. Who is the book about, and what would you like readers to take away from the experience of reading it?
It's a historical fiction based on my grandma, Ruby, who grew up in Oilton, Oklahoma. The book takes place in Drumright, Oilton, and Chillicothe, Missouri in the 1900s. Those towns, especially Drumright and Oilton, they were boom towns. They were oil boom towns, and they were extremely important to the entire United States, especially in that time period. And Oklahoma had really just become a state a couple of years earlier. So it's real interesting for people to read about what the world was like back then, and also to discover that young men and women had it was a different world for them. When you changed into manhood and womanhood, you were expected to get married. You were only allowed to have one rooster in the house, as apparently my great grandpa used to say. Time to get married, you're 14. No, actually, but actually, my great grandparents were very progressive and believed in education and worked hard to put the kids in school, except the girls, and so that's why my grandma worked hard to get her education. And that's what the story is about, to know that you are meant to do something, and what it is that makes it happen, which for her, it was getting her education, and what she went through, and how she earned the money to make it happen, and then how her parents supported her.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. We wish you continued success with your new book.
Thank you, and thank you for supporting me.
Absolutely, always. Our guest today is a repeat guest, right? We love Sandy Adams. She comes with so much fabulous information, especially during a time of uncertainty. when people want to get out and travel, they don't know where they can go. They don't know what the travel restrictions are. We've got this expert genius who is going to tell us the pertinent information and share information about her recent trip. Let's bring her on. Yes. Sandy Adams, travel advisor from Cruise Planners. Welcome.
Hi, how are you guys doing? Diane, I'm so excited for you.
We're great. I just wish I'd spend with you. Oh, thank you so much. I wish I could always just get into your suitcase and go traveling with you.
Sandy, tell us about your most recent travels.
A couple of weeks ago, we embarked on a rail journey with Rocky Mountaineer out of Denver. Rocky Mountaineer, up until this year, was a Canadian rail line. They have 4 different routes through the Canadian Rockies. And this year is their inaugural Rockies to the Red Rocks. So we traveled from Denver, overnighted in Glenwood Springs. You don't sleep on the train, you sleep in a hotel. You're just on the train during the day. And then we continued on to Moab. It was a day and a half of luxury rail travel. The food was amazing, the service was amazing, and the commentary was amazing. And certainly the views were amazing. We took so many pictures, it's hard to scroll through them all because as you're going down the rail line, you're just snapping away. There was an opportunity for us to take pictures unencumbered by windows, and it was great. And when we finished the rail journey, we did a 5-day escorted tour through 5 national parks. We stopped at Arches, Dead Horse Point State Park. We went to Bryce National Park, Zion National Park, and Capitol Reef National Park before we ended our trip in Las Vegas. And the views were so amazing. It just took your breath away. And I have some pictures to share. And so this is my sister and I, who's also my business partner. Before we boarded the train, my husband also went along with us on the trip, but this was first class. You could see in the corner, there's a red carpet. They had a red carpet leading us up to the train. And at the stop, it was set up the same way. So first class all the way.
Wow. Nice.
And this was just some of the visuals. This was before we went through Moffat's Tunnel, which is the tunnel that goes over the Continental Divide. And so you go from very green environment in this part of Colorado to what you'll see in some of the future pictures, which is more what you see in Utah, the red clay cliffs. This train actually followed along the Colorado River. And so I had to take some river pictures because I love meandering rivers. So I tried to get a few pictures of that. Here's one of them. This one was my favorite because it really shows the meandering. One geology class in college and I was hooked. And here's another one taken from inside the train. And as you can see, the topography kind of starts to change. And then in some subsequent pictures, we'll see red rocks such as these. And so we just went along the train till we got to Moab. And our first stop was, or one of our stops was Arches National Park. And we did a little bit of hiking there. We also went to Dead Horse Point State Park, and this is a picture from there.
Are those in Utah?
I'm sorry?
Are those parks in Utah? What state are they?
Yes, they're in Utah. And the last picture was the hoodoos at Bryce National Park.
Wow.
And those were just amazing. And they're formed, I just found this to be really interesting. So, the rocks kind of start the way the rocks look at the far side of the picture. And then because of the climate there, they get snow and cold in the wintertime. And in the summertime, it's hot. It works on the rocks. Holes will form in the rocks. And then eventually the top falls down and it creates these wonderful columns that you see.
Wow.
And this is another picture of all the columns. And I mean, I'm looking at this in the picture again, and it's taking my breath away. You can only imagine what it was like to actually see it.
Amazing. Absolutely stunning. Diane, have you been to these areas yourself?
Not those areas, but it reminded me, and I was so pleased how you shared about how they formed, because in the Badlands in South Dakota, have you been to the Badlands by chance?
I was there many years ago, went to see Mount Rushmore, kind of drove through the Badlands.
Right. And so in the Badlands, that formation due to the weather is incredible. And so, but this is just outstandingly amazing. So was that like an aerial view, or was that like right outside your window?
So those pictures of the hoodoos, the last couple of pictures, was pictures that we took while we were hiking along the rim of Bryce Canyon.
Wow, that's amazing.
And so they had several viewing points. And then we also did a hike along the rim there. And then when we went to Zion National Park, we did a hike up past the Emerald Pools and back down, which was also just absolutely beautiful. So I've become a really huge national park fan, and I really want to encourage people to, we have so many amazing parks here, to go out and visit them.
Absolutely.
Sandy, I appreciate that. And I'd love for you to share with anyone who's just joining us. Are there any type of travel restrictions to go to the parks, the national parks?
There aren't any travel restrictions. However, they do require masking when you're inside buildings. So if you're in the visitor center, or if you're in other buildings, or if you happen to be in a large crowd, which we did not, although there were many, many people there, we did not encounter any crowds outside. So those were the current restrictions. When we were on the train, we were required, when we weren't eating or drinking, to have our mask on, but they had us spaced out very nicely. There was 15 passengers in our car, so we were spread out very nicely. And then we also had a lounge car we could go hang out in as well. So felt very safe on the tour through the national parks. We did that portion as an escorted tour. So we had a driver guide took us, and there were 9 of us in our group. And we were in a 14-passenger bus. We wore masks when we were in the bus, but again, when we were outside of the bus, we didn't mask. That wasn't a requirement.
So it sounds like you felt pretty safe during your travels.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. So remind us again, because you had said in a previous episode, so do you sleep at night as you're traveling so you don't miss anything? I forgot how that works.
Right. So the train, the Rocky Mountaineer, and this is applies to their Canadian routes as well, only travels in the daytime. So we boarded the train at 9 a.m. and we arrived in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, about 4:30, 5 o'clock. And then they take care of moving your bags to your hotel. In fact, they came on the train and they handed us our ticket, their keys to our rooms, and off we went to the hotel. So we had time to hang out. There's several hot springs there in Glenwood Springs, and the hotel that we stayed at had a huge thermal pool as well as this huge regular pool. And so we spent about an hour hanging out in those, went out to dinner, explored the town a little bit, went to sleep. And then at 6 the next morning, we headed out back to the train. The train, Rocky Mountaineer, took care of gathering our luggage and moved our luggage to the our next stop in Moab. We got back on the train, had breakfast, had some hors d'oeuvres, and we arrived in Moab about noon.
Sounds like a fantastic trip. Wow.
Wow.
Good for you.
I like how you get to stay and tour the city as well, because that's awesome. So
Absolutely.
You feel like you've really been in the States or Canada, I guess, as well.
Any souvenirs you brought back that you want to share? Any great deals, things that you found in the town?
Well, we actually did most of our purchasing in the national parks because the money goes back into the national parks. So we bought a couple of T-shirts and some other souvenirs. We got one T-shirt. I thought about actually wearing it today. That has the 5 big parks on there:
Nice.
Arches, Canyonlands, which unfortunately we didn't get to. Arches, Canyonland, Bryce, Zion, and Capitol Reef. So those are the big, the major parks in Utah.
Very exciting. And we've got a lot more to talk to Sandy about, but we're going to take a break right now and hear from some of our sponsors. Stay with us as we watch Diane Floyd Boehm for the first sponsorship.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Story Garden. Your host, Diane Boehm. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Diane Floyd Boehm tells wonderful stories that warm the heart, spark the imagination, and unite people and families across generations. For children, Diane's Harry the Camel connects with all of us who've ever wondered how different our lives might have been if only we'd been born something better, like a wonderful horse instead of an ordinary camel. In the end, we all learn along with Harry that there's nothing better than just being yourself. Diane's Little Girl in the Moon looks down on earthbound children and wonders if they know she's just like them. A story of love, home, and the bond between mother and daughter, its powerful theme that we're each of us different yet all of us the same plants a seed in children that promises to blossom within a loving and trusting grown-up. Diane's new biography, Rise, recounts the experiences of her grandmother, Ruby, to reveal the hidden strength of the human spirit. Ruby's story inspires all of us to become the best versions of ourselves. You'll find all of Diane's delightful books and much more at DianeFloydBoehm.com. Visit DianeFloydBoehm.com. That's DianeFloydBoehm.com.
When all my broken sneakers started to pile up in the wardrobe, I realized that we have a problem. Sneakers are made from plastics, and plastic is not mendable. My name is Philip, and I'm one of the founders of Our Choice Fashion. How many times did this happen to you? How can eco sneakers save the world when they break after only a few months and we have to buy pair after pair that breaks? We are here to give you the solution, a choice for truly sustainable fashion in the world's first circular sneakers. On average, we all buy 3 pairs of sneakers each and every year. This adds up to 25 billion sneakers per year, of which most end up in landfills. This adds up to 350 million tons of CO2 emissions, the same amount as for the country of Italy or the state of California. So we started to develop a product that would have all the old-fashioned qualities. It is mendable, it has a classic design, and it has a natural comfort. Because we chose the best designer there is, Mother Nature. The sneakers get more and more comfortable the more you wear them. Made from vegetable tan leather and natural latex from the rubber tree, the sneakers are both sustainable and comfortable. These sneakers are made from pure raw materials that are both fully biodegradable and fully recyclable. The best thing here really is that when your sneakers need an upgrade, you just send them right back to us using the same bag that you got them delivered in. We then resole your sneakers, put on a fresh pair of laces, and give them a nice new polish. This means that you can wear your sneakers for many years to come. Our sneakers are more than sneakers. They are a circular function, and we developed a smart pull for you to step into your sneakers without stepping down the heel. This means that you get a truly sustainable grip. We've got a fully circular business model, and that's why we'll only produce sneakers on your demand. Book your product now and get that sustainable grip at a discount. We've been on this amazing journey for 2 years, and now we're inviting you to also make a choice for truly sustainable fashion. Try the world's first circular sneakers, 100% plastic-free, and I can promise you that our choice will be your companion for many years to come.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hi, welcome back to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. You are watching or listening to Fashion, Fitness, Travel, and Leisure. Thank you to our lovely sponsors, Diane Floyd-Bame and Philip Westerland from Our Choice Fashion. Our guest today is the lovely Sandy Adams, travel advisor and cruise planners. I just want to interject one thing. Until I interviewed Philip, I never realized how many broken sneakers. I never thought that the backs of my sneakers are all crushed in. Do you have the same problem?
Yes.
I do too. And those sneakers, I really need to order me some. But I started thinking as I was listening to it, I was like, 1, 2, oh my goodness, he's right. You really do buy that many pairs of shoes. So I'm like, let's say I want a couple of sneakers that look cute with this and that. And then I want my walking shoes. But oh yeah, then I bought these other walking shoes.
Yep.
It's so true. Sandy, when we think about hiking, you mentioned you've done some hiking. What kind of shoes do you wear? Do you wear boots or sneakers?
So I have some Merrell hiking shoes. I also have some boots, but I decided not to take those on this trip because I figured it was going to be pretty hot. And the worst thing you want to have is your feet sweating. Right. So we just used hiking shoes. And I do want to mention that at the national parks that we went to, so my assumption is that all the parks are like this, is that they have easy trails and they have really hard trails. So we, for the most part, were on trails. So there wasn't a lot of climbing that we had to do. There was at Zion, we went to more of an intermediate hike, and we did have to not necessarily climb up rocks, but some stairs, and there were a lot of boulders that we had to make our way over. So I felt like those shoes came in handy. We had a couple of people with us who were wearing just gym shoes, and they were slipping around a bit. So depending on what you have in mind in terms of hiking, I would recommend a hiking shoe. They don't have to be very expensive. You just want something that has a little bit of a grip. And if you're interested in doing more aggressive hiking, you want to invest in those hiking poles. And they make hiking poles that are retractable, so they're really easy to travel with.
Interesting. I was going to ask you about that, and something else, of course, in my mind that always comes when I think about the outdoors. What about being prepared for any type of creatures?
Where are those snakes?
So we didn't encounter any snakes. It was buggy a bit, so I always recommend that people take with them DEET. So off or something that has DEET in it. There are signs around that do tell you what to do in the case of encountering animals. At a couple of the parks, there were warning signs, saying that there were mountain lions in the area, that they normally did not interact with people, but it gave you step by step what you should do if you encounter a mountain lion. And then on the same post, on the same bulletin board thing that had the mountain lions, it also talked about bears and told you what steps to take. And you handle encountering a bear very differently than you handle encountering a mountain lion. So the parks do a really good job of preparing people. There are rangers throughout the parks. When we were on one of our walks, we encountered an EMT ranger, and chatted with her a bit, and we asked her why she was there, and she said, just in case there were problems. And so I thought that was great that they take the time to do that, and that they also have rangers at the visitor center, and we also saw rangers driving around. So I just felt very safe in terms of not worrying about wandering off. And what I did want to point out was, and I mentioned this briefly, that we had done this park tour as an escorted tour with a small group. And if you haven't done hiking in the past or explored the national parks, it can be really overwhelming. So we found it really helpful to have a tour guide with us the entire time. He was with us from the time we got off the train until we made it to Las Vegas. And so he took care of making sure the hotels were prepared for us, got us the picnic lunches. When there were issues that came up along the way, we had somebody to turn to, and he could take care of it. He also had experience in visiting these parks, so he could recommend different options for the time frame that we had as we visited each park. And so I found that to be really helpful. We've already decided that we want to go back because there were a couple of hikes that we would like to do again. And but I really would recommend an escorted tour if it's your first time out.
I love the idea of an escorted tour and a tour guide who knows how to deal with any type of creatures that might be out there, because it sounds like it's absolutely magnificent, but we're not in Disney World, boys and girls, right? This is not a theme park. This is the real world.
I'm so glad you said that, because as you were talking, Sandy, I was thinking of how I was in The Wizard of Oz and thinking, lions and tigers and bears.
Oh, no.
So it is not. But the other point is the shoes. So if you go and purchase a pair of shoes, you need to wear them in before you go hiking, right?
Absolutely.
Good point.
Absolutely. It's the same thing with a pair of running shoes. You don't want to buy a new pair of shoes and then go out and run a marathon the next day.
That's right.
You need to break your shoes in.
Absolutely, or else it's Blister City. And then you mentioned climbing boulders. So like in my mind, I'm thinking boulders, huge ones, right? So like, were you like climbing like this, or were you using the stick?
Well, we actually did not have sticks.
Okay.
There were a couple of times they could have come in handy. No, we were not having to actually climb up boulders,
Okay.
but there were big rocks in the path. And so we had to kind of navigate around them. And sometimes the only choice was to walk on them, which is where I felt the hiking shoes really came in handy, because the people that were wearing gym shoes, they were more likely to slip.
Right, makes sense.
So
What a great
I would just recommend that if you've not, done hiking before, because I'm very new to hiking, if you haven't done it before, like I said, there are a lot of trails that you can take that you don't have to do mountain climbing, because there's a big difference between mountain climbing and hiking. So, you start out small, and then as you develop your confidence, then you do the more difficult hikes.
Sandy, are the parks open year round, and are the trails always open regardless of the weather?
It depends on the park. Some parks are only open seasonal, and some parks are only partially open in the wintertime. And other parks, if they're in warmer areas, then they'll be open year round. So it really depends on what part of the country you're looking to explore.
Thank you. Diane, you had a question?
Yes. So I want everyone to get a sense that not every park looks exactly the same. If you've seen one, you've seen them all, right? And you kind of shared that with some of your pictures, but could you share maybe how each park had its own little romance going with it?
Yes. So Arches National Park, it was very, so there's actually 2,000 arches in the park.
Wow.
And from the area that we were in, we went to the area that's called the windows, and we looked at the upper windows and the lower windows. So those were some of the arches. The big arch that you see in the pictures all the time is called Delicate Arch. And one of those pictures was of Delicate Arch. We did not choose to do that hike. It's about 1.5 mile hike from the trailhead to the Delicate Arch, but there is absolutely no shade. And it's probably medium hard difficulty, medium to medium hard difficulty, depending on your experience. And we ended up starting later in the day. So that is one that we want to go and do, but we will get up and be out there at 6 a.m. So we won't have to deal with the heat, because on that day, the temperature went to 100 degrees. And by the time we got out there, it was already in the high 80s.
Wow. Interesting.
Wow. Sandy, so inquiring minds want to know, when you're out on these trails, are there any rest facilities and or food and beverage?
So at the trailheads, that's where you'll find the bathrooms. So the windows hike that we did, there was a bathroom where we started it, and it was kind of a loop. And it took us maybe an hour to do that. So yeah, they'll have restrooms at the trailheads. In terms of food, they have water access so that you can fill your water bottles and all. But the food is going to be at the visitor centers or at designated locations. So a park may have a restaurant. As an example, we went to Capitol Reef National Park, and it was pouring rain, so we didn't really have a chance to explore it. But we did stop at the visitor center, and then we went to another area where they had they sold these amazing pies. At Capitol Reef National Park, they have orchards that were planted, I don't recall when, but I think in the late 1800s, these orchards were planted, and the national parks have maintained them. And so this place that we went to in the park, they take the fruit from the orchards and they make pies, and they sell them to people who are visiting the park. So we bought an apple pie that was really delicious.
Sounds fantastic.
And then when we were at Zion National Park, they're at the lodge. So many of the national parks also have lodges, so you can spend the night in the park. And so at the lodge, they had a snack bar. So we were able to eat our lunch there, and then we went off on our hike.
Great.
Sounds like a fantastic experience.
It was wonderful.
Sandy, thank you so much for sharing that and the beautiful pictures. I'm wondering, in our last part of this show, if it's possible for you to share any updates you might have about travel. And I know that President Biden gave a speech yesterday, and I believe there's now I don't know if it's approved or not, but some mandate that companies with 100 or more employees have to have everyone vaccinated. So when I think of the hospitality industry, the airline industry, this is going to have a significant impact. But I'm just wondering what updates you might have in terms of COVID and traveling.
Absolutely. I'm sure many of our listeners have heard that the EU a few weeks ago advised their member countries to consider taking the U.S. off their travel list because of the outbreak that we're currently having. Each country makes their own decision. And it wasn't just the U.S. They also took off Israel, Kosovo, Lebanon, Montenegro. And this was for allowing unvaccinated people to visit their countries. So just to give a really quick idea of what's going on, France has some different requirements depending on whether you are vaccinated or unvaccinated. And this is as of yesterday. I checked on this stuff yesterday because it literally changes on a daily basis. Italy, their COVID requirements vary on the particular region. They are requiring COVID testing, and you have to show proof of vaccination. In some of these countries, in order to go into restaurants or visit museums and the like, you have to show proof of vaccination. In Spain, you must be vaccinated and a health screening is required before you enter the country. You have to fill out a form online. Sweden has actually banned U.S. travelers through the 31st of October. And as I said, these kinds of things change on a daily basis. I get an email every day about a new change in a new country. So this is why I feel that having a travel advisor is really important. I have some clients that are going to be traveling to Barbados and to Spain and to Mexico in the next couple of months. And what I will be spending time doing on a weekly basis is checking to see if the requirements have changed, and if so, informing my clients. And I see oftentimes on different Facebook groups that I'm in, of travelers that are getting rejected from countries because they show up and they don't have a proper test, or they're not vaccinated, or they haven't done the health form, and people have been turned around and sent home. So it's really important to, if you don't have a travel advisor, make sure that you are checking on a regular basis what the requirements are for the country that you're going in. What I've been seeing over the last 2 weeks is that they're even tweaking the requirements for the how soon the test has to be done. For the most part, countries have been requesting that no later than 72 hours before arrival in their country. Some have changed it to 48 hours. So it's really important to know what the requirement is, so that you don't show up and not be prepared. So that's in terms of COVID and land travel. That's the latest. In terms of cruise travel, several of the cruise lines, depending on the itinerary of the cruise, are requiring vaccination if you are 12 years old or older. There are some that are not allowing children at this time because the countries that they visit are requiring vaccination status. Many of the cruise lines are also requiring, even cruising out of the U.S., are requiring a negative test, even if you're vaccinated, and that's due to the Delta variant. So again, it's just important that you're constantly keeping up on these things. I had some clients that recently cruised to Alaska, and about a week before they were due to go, and they happened to be vaccinated. The cruise line also implemented that they had to get tested. And, so I was able to share that with them. And so they were prepared to go and do that and get that taken care of. But I had read a couple of weeks prior, people had shown up. They didn't know that that a test was required, and they were not allowed to board the ship. So these things are important.
Thank you, Sandy. That's a lot of great information. I have two questions that come to mind, and I'm sure this will change depending on where the person's going to travel. How much should a person budget for these tests? I've heard it can be quite expensive.
It depends. So if they're required to test before they leave the U.S., it's possible that their insurance may cover that. Okay. If the requirement is that they're going to have to test in country, some countries, if you are there over a certain period of time, and the Bahamas comes to mind for me, you have to test midway. Then again, you can find that information out before you go. So you wouldn't be surprised. And again, if you have a travel advisor, they would be telling you that. And what to expect and what forms you need to fill out, and the like. So it depends on the country and the requirement. Also, if you are going with a tour company, sometimes they cover it. Many of the cruise lines, as well as many of the all-inclusive hotels in the Caribbean and in Mexico, are providing a COVID test to return to the U.S. because that is a requirement to get back home. Got to get that test within, I believe it's 48 hours prior to returning. So when I did my cruise a couple months ago, they did it for us on the ship. I had a client who did a tour of Iceland, and the tour company that she was with, Inside Vacations, arranged for them to get tested again before they came back. So you can find that information out ahead of time. Your travel advisor will give you that information so that you're prepared and you understand what the procedures are before you get there.
Thank you, Sandy. Sorry, one more question comes to mind. I remember when I was in my corporate role, I went to the airport and I was fingerprinted and signed up for something. I think it's called Global something, where when you come back from a country, you're through customs. You don't have to go where everybody else goes. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, it's Global Entry.
Global Entry.
Thank you.
And it's very well worth it.
I love it.
Thank you. Do you know how long that actually, can you share with our audience what it is and the benefits and how long it's good for?
Okay, so Global Entry allows you to basically use a kiosk when you return to the U.S., and it speeds you through your immigration as well as customs. It costs $100. You are required to submit fingerprints. You fill out an application, then they'll fingerprint you, and you go through an interview, and then you get approved. And it's good for 5 years, and then you do a renewal. And just a little tip, a lot of credit cards will actually cover the cost of Global Entry.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's a biggie. Big one.
They'll give you a credit back for it. So that's a little tip maybe people didn't know.
It's a nice gem. Sandy, can you renew online, or do you actually have to go into the airport to do that?
So I renewed online last year, and they just sent me a new card. I'm going to be renewing my husband's here shortly, and we'll see what the process is. What I don't know is if that's the standard process, or because we were in COVID and because they were, well, actually I did it before COVID, but they were really backed up. And so I'm sure that they do some kind of background investigation of you, and if you're good to go, then they give you your card. But I can get some detailed information for the next interview if you'd like.
Yes, that'd be fantastic. So in case folks are interested in traveling abroad next year, they might have to take action now. And also with passports, there was a backup for them as well, right?
Absolutely. So that's what I was going to say. Everyone should check your passports right now, today. And even if you're not thinking about traveling, you don't have a trip scheduled, if your passport is close to expiring, go ahead and do the process to get it renewed. Because right now, new passports are taking up to 18 weeks, and renewals are taking somewhere between 14 and 16 weeks. And you just don't want to have a trip planned and then not be able to go because your passport has expired. The other thing that travelers may not know is that most countries have a requirement that your passport is good for a certain period of time after your scheduled departure date from that country. For most countries that require that, it's 6 months. So if you are going on a trip in October, I'm going to Mexico in October, and my passport needs to be good for 6 months after my return date. So that's something too that people need to keep in mind when they're preparing to travel. And again, just to make a pitch for travel agents, one of the things that I do is I keep track of my clients' passport information, and I can remind them that it's time to renew their passports.
Well, nice.
Yes, I love that.
Good.
Guess what? I'm going to go look for my passport and my global entry card and see when they expire, because I haven't even been paying attention to it during this whole lockdown period. And I intend to go abroad next year, so I better look into it now.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Too.
Yeah, one thing I just want to...
I'm
Go ahead,
sorry.
Diane.
I just want to throw in there that because I did live overseas, that you should have copies unless the tour agent, like yourself, tour guide, should have different copies of your passport with you, because you never ever give your passport for somebody to keep. And if for some reason something has changed and all of a sudden you find out you're going to be going to a different country because of various things, you want to have various copies of your passport. Isn't that right, Sandy?
Yes. I have, even before I was a travel advisor, I always took a couple copies with me, and I put them in different parts of my luggage, because if you lose your passport, you got to have something.
Yeah,
so, I always recommend, that you have a copy or two, and I keep a copy of people's passports on file as well.
Diane and Sandy, one thing I have to mention, the last time I traveled abroad was 2018, and I went to the UK, and I also went to France, and I stayed in 4 different hotels, I think, and in each case, the hotel required me to give them my passport while I was staying there. Is that normal?
Yes.
Okay.
It's scary, but it is normal at the hotels, but they're good about taking care of them, right, Sandy?
Yes, absolutely. They lock them up.
What's the reason for that? Because I felt like as soon as I left the hotel, I felt kind of naked and vulnerable because I didn't have my passport.
So that's a good question. I've never actually researched that. So I will research that and I will have an answer.
All right. I like it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
But also then when you're walking, keep a copy of, I learned this living abroad, always keep a copy of your passport on you, because you never know what could happen to that building. And again, you need to have copies showing who you are and so forth.
And also something else, how you will read or hear that you shouldn't keep your valuables or medications or anything in your luggage. Of course, I probably didn't get that notice. and did. And I was traveling abroad. I was on a site inspection. I think I was in the Canary Islands. And long story short, my luggage was stolen. And I didn't get it back for, I think it was maybe 8 days. We were still there in country. And the bag both of them had been ripped open, and they took all the valuables, and I had to go to the police department, and some of my identification was in the bag. So it was quite a mess. So I learned something from that. You need to keep everything on your person or in your carry-on bag.
Absolutely. Good advice. Yes.
Good advice.
You learned the hard way.
I miss those Dior sunglasses with the Swarovski crystals on the side. And they were prescription too. What did they need them for? I digress. Anyway, it's been such a pleasure having you back, Sandy. When will we see you again?
I believe I am on the 15th, and I will be sharing my experience at an all-inclusive because I'll be going there the beginning of October. And then I'll also be sharing our upcoming Christmas Market River Cruise.
Ooh, fantastic. You know what I just was thinking, Sandy and Diane, it would be nice if we could get you while you're on your trip, if we could get you on the show then too.
That would be cool. Yeah, we'll see if we can work that out.
Okay, great. We'll talk to you about it afterwards.
Okay. Thank you. Christmas one, we might have to fly over there.
Sandy, I know you mentioned you have an event coming up. Anything that you'd like our audience to know, and also about this digital magazine that you have?
Yes. So our new magazine is out. It's our summer and fall version. All kinds of great opportunities for travel. And I put the information is scrolling along the bottom. And there's also a contest. So if you enter the contest, you could win a 3-day trip for two to a Sandals resort, or a 3-day trip to a beaches resort for a family of 4.
Very nice. Excellent. And Sandy, while I have you on Spotlight, can you please just share with us who should contact you and the best way to reach you?
You can. So I do individual travel, family travel, group travel, and I even do business incentive travel. And it's either land or sea, or both. So we are a full service travel agency. The best way to reach me is either by phone, and my phone number is scrolling along the bottom, 571-297-7676. You can go to my website, which is escapesandgetaways.com, and there's a chat feature there. So that's a good way to reach out to me. Or you can send me an email at sandyadams@cruiseplanners.com. I'm also on Facebook, and I'm also on Instagram. And on Facebook, it's Sandy Adams and Allison Schloss Cruise Planners. And so those are the ways that you can reach me.
Thank you, Sandy. I'm noticing your email is sandy.adams. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. Just checking. All right. Thank you again for being here. We are excited to have you back, and we're excited even more for the live, getting you live while you're right there on your trip. That'll be fun.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. It was great seeing both of you.
Nice seeing you too. And hello to Allison.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I love having her on, don't you?
I did too. I get so excited. I really want to, every day I want to travel.
And, you know, the truth is you're out. Like, you know, I haven't gone anywhere, as I've told you. Like, no one believes me. I'm still on this island with my mother. So.
Well, your mom's very blessed to have you. And yes, we go out, but I want the listeners to know that we are extremely, extremely careful. And it's almost time for me to get a booster, and I am going to get the booster because we are out, and so we do take all the appropriate precautions.
Absolutely, yes. Diane, it's a pleasure seeing you. You look lovely, and good luck at your book signing. Keep smiling. I'm going to spotlight you, and please let our audience know how they can reach you, how they can get your books, all your books.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being listeners and loyal listeners and new listeners to Dr. Jacqueline and I on Fashion, Fitness, Travel, and Leisure. We love having you, and we would look forward to hearing any ideas or thoughts or places you would like to know more about. You can find me at diannefloydbame.com, DIANNFLOYD. B as in boy, OEHM.com. You can Google me on Amazon and all my books will show up. My latest one is for young adults, teens, Rise, A Girl's Struggle for More. And my children's books are about hope, peace, and love and loving yourself. And you'll find them all there. And I'm very excited and honored. It took a long time to get here, and I can't wait to keep going.
Well, it's been wonderful watching you rise, Diane. So keep up the great work.
Thank you, Dr. Jacqueline, and you're a star. And I can't wait to hear more about your book you're working on.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hopefully we'll have it out by the end of the year. We'll see.
You're an amazing woman. You are, people, she doesn't pay me to say this, so Dr. Jacqueline, please keep me on the air for one more minute. When I think about how we met so serendipitously and the things you've done for me, but just watching you and learning and just seeing you grow and the people and the lives that you touch, you are, to me, you are a shining angel on earth. And I just wait to see where else you go. And by the way, I noticed your singing voice is getting stronger. So I could tell already. You hit that note, ding, you were just like right there, crystal clear. So I know you're going to tell your audience what you're up to, but I want to commend you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I had the opportunity to interview Madeline Chan, and she's a singer-songwriter out of the UK. I interviewed her twice, and it was amazing because on a show I do on Friday mornings, I was actually having a live coaching session by my co-host, John Christian. He was coaching me, and I decided to let go of something, which was being on the 75 Hard program. And I was really concerned about letting go of something. And I said publicly, that's it. I'm done with this. It's not serving me. I don't feel well. And literally right after the show, I got a Facebook Messenger message from Madeline saying that she somehow felt that I always wanted to be a singer, and she was gifting me with the voice lessons, and that we were going to co-write a song together and have it produced. So I had my second lesson yesterday, and I'm working on all that jazz. And it's been really amazing because I don't have any professional singing training as a singer, and it's such a look inside. Like the masculine side, the feminine side, and how your voice can come and be projected either one of those ways. And I'm really learning a lot about myself through these singing lessons. So I am really grateful. But thank you for saying that. I'm working on the second verse, slick your hair and slick your hair and wear your buckle shoes. That one I'm working on.
It's going to be fantastic. And it just works so well with Rise.
Well, I'm channeling Catherine Zeta-Jones. I know that, what's her name? The other lady who sings it begins with an N. Newworth, BB Newworth. She also sings it. But I'm Catherine Zeta-Jones. She's just so sexy and classy and hot in that movie Chicago. So
yeah, she's from Wales.
I know that. Yes, I've always been a fan of hers.
Yeah, and some of my ancestors, the Floyds, actually came from Wales. So yeah, so the Welsh people, I think, are very sexy.
Guess what? Speaking of Wales, on our next show, which is coming up, it's called I Have a Story to Tell. My guest, Victoria George Veal, she is from Wales, and she's actually a correspondent for Wales. She was Miss Regal World, and she's bringing on 2 beauty pageant winners with her. So nice. We'll be channeling Wales right after this.
I will be sure to tune in. Yay for the Welsh. Get her to speak a little bit of their language. It's really something.
Well, I'm looking forward to the show. And I do want to thank Sandy Adams, again, travel advisor with Cruise Planners. And you can reach her at escapeandgetaways.com, sandy.adams@cruiseplanners.com. And she also has a digital magazine, yay, which is go to her website, escapesandgetaways.com/magazine. All right. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Sandy. We look forward to seeing you next time. And if you want to be a guest on our show, you can go to drjacqueline.com, book your session. And we'd love to hear your story. Right, Diane?
Absolutely. And y'all have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye.